Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coin Lady channel. We return with the latest cryptocurrency news and commentary. We'll be discussing Ripple and XRP today. Let's jump in, and we'll begin with the US currency. The US dollar has finally reached its final test, as we have now fallen below the crucial Fibonacci retracement line that I have been talking about for some time. However, if we fail to retake the 203-day exponential moving average EMA around 101, it will be a watershed moment for cryptocurrencies, stocks, gold, silver, etc. Since, hey, did you know that? If you look back at the weekly, you'll see that the last time we lost this was in June of 2020. Another topic I've been covering on the monthly for the US dollar is the fact that everything has a ceiling and a floor. The EMA will come back in October of 2022, exactly when we start to lose. The EMA began to fall and then, with an abrupt thump, we had lost the 50-week EMA, the largest of the EMA. Remember, the 51 cent went missing in May of 2017. The rising market of 2017-2018 is in full swing. However, the loss of the 50 was a major red flag that, you guessed it, a major surge in the markets was on the horizon. Then, as it kept falling, particularly below the 200-week moving average, things went berserk. Then, in the beginning of 2018, we hit rock bottom. This is also the case in March of 2020, for instance. We dropped below the 50-week EMA in March of 2020 and have been attempting to recover since then. We were unable to avoid being crushed by the EMA and lost ground on the 200-week moving average. Definitely the summer of the year 2020. At this point, the price of DeFi coins began to spiral out of control. And what do you know? Because of this, the 2020-2021 upswing got its start. Then, finally, we were able to pull ourselves out of that pit. The market rose a little bit more in May. What though? The market peaked because the US currency rose above its 200-week moving average. We're keeping a careful eye on it because, if we keep falling behind, I can see two possible outcomes. There's still a chance for a US dollar rally, but I think we'll eventually drop below the 200-week moving average. When we do, the market as a whole, including XRP, will experience significant upward momentum. Keeping this in mind, what factors ultimately lead to this happening? Okay, I admitted as much in a recent recording. The rapid growth of the BRICS nations, however, is placing considerable strain on the US dollar. Russian participation in the BRICS investigation of a new trading currency is anticipated. The US dollar is presently experiencing significant decline in its relative strength. I've been talking about how the BRICS countries are quickly developing for a while now. I've been saying this for over a year, but we need to write new regulations in the financial sector to allow for the use of a universal currency. Whatever digital money we use, be it rubles, rupees, yuans, or something else, it must comply with the regulations of the countries in which we live. And, he said, the dollar isn't helping the two countries achieve their goals together because it provides the United States an unfair advantage. That's what I was talking about, right? These countries prefer to use completely autonomous currencies. They object to having it dominated by a single power. Because of its fundamentally decentralized nature, cryptocurrency is poised to play a pivotal role in many aspects of international trade and currency conflicts. Many people don't give XRP a second thought because they assume Ripple is in charge of it. Both Ripple and XRP are entirely distinct from one another. I'm free to use XRP whenever I like, with no commitment to Ripple. As an example of a trade token that could be used as a currency with no control element, XRP is ideal for these countries to adopt. Consequently, do you think they will? I mean, that's debatable. The most notable development, however, is Russia's adoption of stablecoins and CBDCs. While I strongly oppose the latter, the former is something I can live with. Stablecoins could be useful not only for the general public but also for central banks, in my opinion. The economic sanctions applied by Western powers after Russia's invasion appeared to be fueling Russia's plan for a new currency other than the dollar. After SWIFT barred Russian commercial banks from using its settlement platform in January 2022, it was claimed that the sanctions had wiped out nearly 5% of Russia's GDP by February 2022. In our reporting from February and March of 2022, we saw the beginning of the currency conflict. I also predicted that a lot would transpire in the future. Much of the focus thus far has been on the BRICS and related developments. And it's crazy to think that this has all happened in the space of a single year. Massive developments have come from Saudi Arabia and Egypt in just the last couple of weeks. I mean, there really is a lot. Right. China has played a significant role. Obviously, Russia and the other BRICS countries have played significant roles. However, Saudi Arabia is one we are presently investigating and focusing on because they are the ultimate decision makers. Malaysian broadcasts, however, reach here. The Prime Minister of Malaysia has stated that there is no longer any need for his country to use the US currency. This just occurred today, and it's clear that Malaysia has no interest in maintaining a high level of dollar dependence. The current fragility of the US economy is a major defining feature of its current condition. Furthermore, today's employment report exemplifies this precarious state. On the other hand, Malaysia's viewpoint on the global aspects of the US dollar has lately been in the spotlight. The economic might of China, Japan, and so on is causing a significant shift away from reliance on the US dollar, and I'm telling you, guys, as we look at what's occurring, we're seeing a huge push in that direction. In my opinion, the plan needs to include discussions about the Asian Monetary Fund and how the ringgit and the national currency can be used in the context of the proposal. In particular, it was in answer to questions about nations that have decided to stop using the US dollar in international trade. So, I'm telling you that this is, like, a huge deal in the history of our currency. We are on the cusp of a transformation the likes of which have not occurred in over a century. This has enormous implications. The Saudi Crown Prince, MBS, has publicly stated that he no longer seeks to win the approval of the United States. The state of the American economy is to blame for all of this, and yet, as we can plainly see, nobody gives a damn. In response to the media's misunderstandings, the Crown Prince once said, "We don't have the right to lecture you in America." He went on to say that Vice President Biden should be prioritizing American interests alongside the prince. The inverse is also true. So once again, it appears that there is considerable friction. And the most notable thing about Saudi Arabia is that they are the ones keeping the dollar's value relatively stable. The agreement with the petrodollar. Honestly, why should the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia worry what the United States does? Since ultimately they are the stronger party. And that, I believe, is the point at which Americans begin to disregard the issue in large numbers. Things are beginning to seep into Saudi Arabia as we look more closely at the region. The following has been observed this week. I recently made a video in which I mentioned that Saudi Arabia had decided to become a dialogue partner with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I'm just providing you a brief update on the situation. As a result, China and Brazil agreed to stop using the dollar in commerce. The first ever LNG transaction between China and France was settled in yuan. There has been talk in Asia of moving away from using the US dollar, euro, and British pound as their primary currencies. We heard that gold and other commodities like rare earth elements should or could serve as backing for the BRICS reserve currency. So the entire event spanned a mere 7 days. So it seems like things are picking up steam as we look at this. The Chinese yuan surpassed the US dollar as Russia's most traded currency yesterday, which is the craziest thing that has ever occurred in Russia. Things are changing, and this is a big transformation, as we take a closer look at the monetary system. This shift does not occur at the rate of once every 100 years. And the early indications are not encouraging. I hope that people will see this for themselves and become aware of the dire situation we're in. Because at the moment, the US dollar appears fine if you take a step back and look at the big picture. But I recently produced a video on the macroeconomics of the US dollar, and the main point I made was that the US dollar has made lower lows and lower highs since going all the way back, almost 40 years ago. This is very bad indeed. It's possible that the dollar as we know it could soon completely implode. And if that's the case, well, then, you should avoid parking your money in US dollars. You definitely do not want to be sitting in the major banks right now. There's something else I've noticed amid these major revisions. First of all, it's clear that Europe has a monopoly on the prohibition on travel to Russia and India. As a benchmark, Dubai's energy market was chosen for the cost of oil. This was also a major development. There is a heavy emphasis on oil. Oil is the primary focus. Right. And financial tools. That's the greatest news ever. The strangest part of this whole situation, though, is that these countries are actively working to distance themselves from the United States as a direct result of events occurring within the United States. What we've seen today in the employment numbers, specifically. Right. Here is a breakdown of the biggest cuts expected in 2023. There are currently 27,000 people working for Amazon. Just type 12,000 into Google. Meta 10,000. There are 10,000 Microsoft employees. The 3,200 Goldman Sachs. 25% off at Coinbase. Speed up Glassdoor by 15%. And this is just the beginning. But the craziest part is that heading back, right? Here then is a monthly rundown of job cuts at software firms. Since the beginning of 2022, around 1,600 businesses have collectively let go of 330,000 workers. The first 3 months of 2023 alone saw 167,000 cutbacks in the technology sector. This exceeds all of 2022 by a long shot. A lot rides on this. The fact that these are multi-billion-dollar business titans should give everyone pause. That is, excluding the computer sector. Yes, there are plenty of other large corporations out there besides McDonald's. The company's headquarters were closed as hundreds of jobs were eliminated. However, the major businesses that are under the most pressure right now are the ones in the technology industry. Beyond this, too. Right. Even the banking industry has seen record outflows of deposits from major US banks while the outflows of deposits from smaller banks have slowed. An alarming $125.7 billion was withdrawn from US bank accounts in the week ending March 2022, or 20 seconds ago. Sorry. The reality that the economy is contracting is the craziest part of this whole situation. In my opinion, the present state of the US economy is even more dire than that of 2008, when things were already looking bleak. But what's really worrying is that a conflict is breaking out in the world that involves currencies and the financial system at large, and it all seems to be revolving around the US dollar. And as we see the US dollar being squeezed between the 2016 and 2017 resistance zone on this chart, I would contend that once we start to see a break of this structure, things will get very interesting very quickly. The US dollar is going to have a tough time breaking through this zone of opposition, in my opinion. And I do anticipate that we will eventually retest around 95, 96, or possibly 93, and at the high end, maybe even 90 or 89, 90, all of which are either a 6% decline, a 9% drop, or an 11.6% drop from today's price. But the issue remains, how low can the US dollar go before it stabilizes? Simply put, I don't think there's a compelling bull argument for the US dollar when we consider the big picture. I was generous. I mentioned that we could use 2008 as an illustration. This was 2008, then? The US currency didn't start to show significant strength until after 2,192 days. After 2,192 days of trying to break through a significant barrier zone, we finally succeeded. To what extent will our delay exceed 2,192 days? If so, we'll be in the year 2030 instead of the year 2024 that I'm basing my estimate on. The strangest part of this is the chain of events that led up to the major breakdown. The BRICS countries have spearheaded the international movement against the US currency, and now the rest of the world is following suit. While we wait patiently, the United States seems to be doing little to nothing to stop what's occurring, which has frustrated many people. Is that all on purpose? Does this make sense? Is this part of some grander scheme? It's not a given. Please share your thoughts with me in the section below. I value your feedback. Click the like and subscribe buttons and toggle the notifications on switch. See you later, bye.